Hey, everybody, we're back. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful day. I'm Tina Frank, and I'm a mature Christian. Wait, who am I again? A
I
mature
don't know.
Christian woman who follows the teachings of Jesus Christ. And thank you for joining us on Splintered Grace. I'd like to introduce to my co host.
Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans femme genderqueer spiritual drag artist and digital chaplain still. That hasn't changed.
That's so funny. I can't believe I'm like, oh, what am I saying? I forgot who I am. What am I supposed to say? That's hilarious.
Right? It
Sorry.
happens.
I'm glad you know who you are this morning. I obviously
Right.
haven't had enough coffee.
It depends on the day for all of us. I mean, hopefully we're kind of the same person, but
Hopefully, you never
we have
know.
our moments
That is so true. That is so true.
for sure. Yeah. Well, this is our final episode of this season.
I'm
So
happy and sad at the same
I
time.
know, right? It's kind of like it'd be nice to have a break, but also like bummer.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed this season in
me too.
general. We took like a little break, and so it was nice to come back. And then I just felt like I felt like I don't know. I just felt like we tried to go a little deeper this season, like we always
Yeah,
do. But it felt a little more. I don't know the words. Um, Maybe a little less relational and more like. Well, I don't know because it's always relational. But I'm trying to think
yeah.
like.
We can't help it. We're just relational people.
Yeah, but I know like my intention was to try to lean more into like learning, like I think maybe more of learning about like spirituality or how to
Mm,
kind of deal with certain situations or talking about like community or things. I don't know, it just felt a little bit more, and maybe it's just more of my intention going into it, but it felt more I felt a lot more curious
yeah.
about things that felt different.
Oh, that's good. I think as our relationship grows, I think
Hmm.
those things will change. We'll have different kinds of conversations. They'll have a different meaning. They'll have different levels of intimacy, and hopefully they'll expand us and our relationship together. I particularly like having the opportunity to see you live because are so far apart. And I know
Yeah.
we talk on the phone, but this is, I don't know, I just enjoy this. And I'm just grateful that other people chime in once in a while because that's a blessing. And that's a blessing for me.
Hmm. Yes, and so folks who are chiming in, whether you're with us live or you're catching us after the fact, yeah, feel free to put in the comments any questions or any suggestions you have for us to, yeah, either right now to talk about or for us to be thinking about in between seasons. And that kind of leads us a little bit into today's topic, which what is was is
We'll see what happens with the comments.
yes, hopes for the future. And so I think part of it for me was just, okay, it's our final episode of the season. Let's kind of wrap things up. And I think for me, I feel like a lot of what we've been talking about along the way are like things that I've been like personally or we've been going through like right
Mm,
now in this moment. And so for me, I think also since we're not going to be together, well, we are, you and I are, but not like
right, right.
on this platform in this way, that we might be thinking about or give word to maybe some of the things that we're going to be doing in the meantime, or that sort of thing. Because I mean, I think we're moving on as if we're going to do another season. um
Yeah.
though we haven't we haven't really discussed it, but it does kind of just feel like we'll probably do another one in the next what 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however way we usually do it.
That's funny. But
Yes.
I just love that we know each other enough that we feel confident,
Hmm.
just saying things like that. So I'm not sure we haven't talked about it, but I think so.
Yeah,
To me, that speaks to the level of our relationship and how it's grown over the years.
without you being like, girl, no, I'm done. I
Yeah,
quit. This is the last episode forever.
yeah. So anyway, sorry. Side note: we warned you in the front. We don't know what we're talking about today.
Right. Well, and I think for me too, I think I've really loved the podcast and like what it's done for us individually, and I
Yeah.
think the individuals that have come on. And every season we seem to have a different kind of group of folks, um, and we do have some similar folks throughout as well, but which I think also kind of adds to each season. And so But one of the things that I would love is for us still, it's like, I know, like, I don't know, sometimes I just wish there were more people, and people say this often, that like more people need to hear you, or more people need to see this, or more people need to have conversations like this. And so I would love for us to be able to have an opportunity to take this a step further, whether it was like, and a part of it is just being open to, I think,
Mm.
like being open to, maybe we were guests at a conference and we had a conversation in front of people, or maybe we recorded one of our podcasts at an event or at a venue somewhere, and then had like a Q&A afterwards with a group of people, whether it's like at a church or a university, or um, some other group of people who get together and like, hey, like we'd love to learn how to have better conversations, or learn how you can be in like meaningful conversation with somebody who maybe has vastly different identities that are
Mm.
sometimes thought to be incompatible with one another.
Yeah. I think all those things would be amazing. I pray that whatever opportunities open up, that you and I are ready and are willing to move forward. Me personally, I'm just kind of in a different space. COVID kind of changed my life drastically. So I've
Mhm.
just been kind of in a different space, but my commitment has been to walk through open doors that are provided to me as long as they align up with my core values
Mhm.
and aren't against my belief system as being a follower of Jesus Christ. So I would be open to any of those things, and I really think, on that note that you were just talking, that being able to develop relationships when people are so different, I think it's so important, and
Mhm.
it's really really missed right now. And not that I don't like social media, because I do, but I think that sometimes that gives us an opportunity to not engage, or
Mhm.
to not address things, or to be horrible to one another, because nobody really knows who we are. And
Mhm.
all those things I think are unfortunate, because it just makes me, that the fact that we can love each other and be so different, I think that's the true heart of who God is. And for me,
Mhm.
as a Christian who believes in God and the teachings of Jesus Christ, God is love. And if I'm doing anything other than loving somebody, that doesn't mean that we have to agree on every area of their life, and that
Right.
everything that they're doing is awesome and all this stuff. Because I know there's some things that I do that you're thinking, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I'm not sure that I know there's things that you do that I'm thinking, okay, well, that's cool for you,
No
but I'm
way.
not doing that either. So, but
Right.
at the end of the day, we can support one another, we can encourage one another, and we can just love one another, do life together.
Yeah. Well, and I think in some ways, I think it also gives us opportunities to actually, I think, actually live into and put into action some of the beliefs and understandings that we have about maybe God and our purpose, and all that sort of stuff. Because for me, I don't feel like we're meant to, like, be unkind to people, and we're all in this together. And so really trying to find a way that we all can be in loving relationship with one another. And I think especially like when it comes down to family dynamics or intimate like closeness, that I think those are the opportunities for us to learn how to be better with the world as a whole too,
Mm.
um so because I think sometimes that can feel a little overwhelming, where it's like you feel like you have to, or like part of our our goal is to help the world, or to show up in the world, and it's like, no, I just need to show up in my
Yeah,
relationships,
yeah,
and just let the rest be what it'll be. And because I show up in those relationships, it does cause me to be a little bit different in the world. Like I'll use a little bit more, maybe I'll have a little bit more awareness or mindfulness, or an ability to maybe think like, oh, maybe there's something more going on there than I know. And
yeah,
maybe not make it a judgment or an assumption, because we've had conversations that, that have because we made assumptions about each other and our
yeah,
perceptions of one another, and that kept us separated for years. And once we
yeah,
actually were able to get to a place where we could, sit down and talk about our differences, we were able to kind of come to understand each other more. And those assumptions were, most of them were pretty like
Non-existent.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
were very off.
Very, very off, very off. And I think that's the first key is people need to be able to um, determine to sit down and have a conversation. You and I had to decide not to be offended by one another, which is offense seems like a strong word,
Or
but
even if we got
truly,
offended that we didn't like, that we didn't stop that from being in relationship with one another or working through that offense, if you will.
right. That's exactly right. And offense, like I said, I think is a pretty harsh word, but I think people get offended by things and they don't even realize that they're offended. uh, you
Yeah.
know so why would I be offended by what someone else is wearing or how they present themselves? Why
Hmm.
would that offend me? But people get offended by that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like just because you think it's appropriate or inappropriate or whatever, that has no bearing on who this person is, and
Hmm.
an opportunity for you to, okay, you're seeing who they are, respond accordingly, not with all this, I don't know, offense and opinions. Can't
Yeah.
even talk.
Well, I think many of us are hurt and wounded already. And so
Of course
I
we
think
are.
from people who, who like we are hurt and wounded already. And so sometimes when we're in those positions, we're so vulnerable that almost everything feels like an attack or an affront or anything that might look similar to, how somebody else treated us, that we're
Hmm.
just automatically going to kind of like get into a defensive
Yep.
space. And we're going to take it personal, I think even more personal when it's somebody that we love or somebody that we're in closer relationship. It's like, don't they get it? They should understand this. They should know me. And it's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
and you have to really kind of work through a lot of that stuff. Roxanne, your sister, my aunt, says they think you're intruding in their space. Mm, yeah. Yeah, I
That's
think
an interesting perspective.
there is that sense. I mean, I hear that constantly online. I mean, which is interesting because I feel like people come into my space to tell me
Hmm.
like horrible, like just all these sorts of things, and I was like, girl, just like keep going. Like,
Yeah, it's like, don't stop here. I didn't invite you here if you don't want to see it.
why you, yeah, like why you needed to stop. But I think, and this is, I think, a key of what is maybe, I had a conversation earlier this week with myself on say something, and my
Mhm.
topic was in the comments, and I talked a lot about these comments that I get in, and like the why, not really getting to like whatever, but like why do people feel this way or whatever. And I think it really comes from having a mindset of scarcity,
Yeah.
that somehow there's not enough, that there's not enough for everyone to have what they need or have what they want or desire, or somehow what I'm doing is impacting you in a negative way. And there are times when what we are doing is harmful to other people, but
Yeah.
there are times when that has nothing to do with, with what's happening.
Yeah.
Roxanne says they are more involved in themselves.
I think
Like
that's
they're, yeah,
possible.
you're making everything about you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I
That's
understood that also.
mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that true though? I mean, we want to be in our comfort zone, right? And
Hmm.
we don't like it when we come out of our comfort zone, and we don't like it when other people make us uncomfortable. I have people that I make them uncomfortable because I love Jesus. And so I talk about Jesus. And not
Hmm.
everyone wants to talk about Jesus all the time. And I
Yeah.
talk about lots of other things, but
Hmm.
I also because of who I am, I want to be able to talk about Jesus.
Right.
And okay, you may not know anything about Jesus or care to hear about Jesus, but I appreciate it because you love me to give me the opportunity to express this part of myself and
Hmm.
say, man, I'm so grateful for Jesus or God today. That's just part of who I am. So I think when we're not as self-absorbed and we can allow people to be who they are, I think that's a first step of opportunity to build a relationship built on love.
Hmm.
And keep in mind though, as we do more life together, I think we start to pick up one another's mannerisms. You've seen that before, right? And so I try to make sure that my mannerisms or
Mm.
whatever they might be, cliches, things I say or whatever, are good and
Mhm.
not negative. And I try to, if I'm picking up something from someone else, because it happens, that I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. I don't want to say that. I love this person and I don't want to pick that up from them.
Mm.
And I try not to do that. So that's just an area that for me, I've been really aware of, not in our relationship necessarily, but in some of the relationships with the people that I have, because I'm so blessed to have lots of different kinds of people that I get to spend time with, that I get to do life with, and get to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all have to come to, like, I think, there is, we all, even when we all speak the same language, our
Hmm.
understanding of those words and the phrasings are very different. And so I think what happens when you're with people long enough is you start to learn how to speak to one another in a way that communicates better or more what you're trying to convey. And
Yeah,
I think we learn that, oh, when I say this word, that kind of doesn't seem to land on them, right? So maybe I can think about, can I say it a different way, or can I be okay with the fact that they say that all the time, and like, what does it matter? And and like, really, but I think sometimes you just have to be invested in a relationship with one another
that's
to be able
exactly
to
right.
really just be like, okay, and just be aware of it. And I think sometimes being able to call it out. I know you and I had a time a while back um, where there was, because I have some like religious trauma specific to like Christianity. In the beginning, you would sometimes say phrases and do things that were like triggering me, even though like I knew it was coming from you, and I'd be like, "That's not what she means," as in like the way that I'm hearing it is not what she means, you
Right,
know.
right,
But I remember we were able to have a conversation with another Christian woman who's a friend of yours, who has a trans child, and I felt like she was able to talk to you in a way to kind of help you understand like the other side of that a little bit more. And and again, it doesn't mean that we have to change who we are. I think we
right.
just come to understand one another more, or better, or get to a point where it doesn't really matter. um and you can be like, well, I know your intention, because I know for me, I noticed initially it was like I was assuming, and I was waiting for you to like stab me, like I was just waiting for you to like, gotcha, which is like not fair and not cute. And I didn't even realize that I had that mentality or that perception. Like somehow I was just waiting for you to like do something, right? That was going to just like end it all. And I
Mhm.
had to get to a space of reminding myself. I often had to remind myself when I felt that way, just be like, no, you need to assume the best. You need to assume the best with her, because you know that to be her and her intention and how she's showing up for you. So it's like you need to assume the best. And if you're taking it in some sort of way, then that's something for me to look at. And that's something for me to look at on my own. And maybe it does take you and I having a conversation about it, I can so that I can feel okay, and maybe even be reminded, oh yeah, because there were times when I wasn't able to tell myself, no, her intentions are good, and I had to tell you, like, this is how I'm feeling. And you were able to talk to me about it, as uncomfortable as it was. I think it was in
Yeah.
season 3,
Yeah,
even talking
and I
about
think that's important. We need to have the courage to have these hard conversations.
it.
And, if anything that you and I have gone through and shared over these last few seasons has been helpful to anyone to have those hard conversations, then I am so grateful. And
Yeah.
I know we're going to continue to have hard conversations as we grow closer together, and as we go through the different seasons in life that we're in, based on who we are. And I know we're going to have some more, but I'm grateful that we have these ones so that we can gear up, and that we know that no matter what's happening, no matter what we feel, no matter if we're offended or not, that when we come together, we're in a safe space, and
Right.
that we both care about the other person and care about what's happening to the other person.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times that's what people don't understand, because they haven't been made to feel that. When I meet even strangers sometimes out, and I have an opportunity there, a lot of times people get distraught. I don't know why. Sometimes I'll be out and about, and I'll, see someone that's crying or something, and I'll just walk up to them and ask them if they need anything. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, sometimes they just,
Mhm.
wow, share everything that I would never think to share with a stranger.
Yeah.
But for me to stop and say, "I want you to know, I don't know your whole situation. I'm gonna pray for you, but I care about what's happening to you right now." That is so valuable because a lot of times I know I've been in situations where I didn't think anyone cared about what was happening to me. I'm sure you've had those situations where you've been going through stuff and you didn't know that anyone even cared about what was happening. Didn't even have to be someone that you knew or in your family, but that nobody even cared about what was happening to you. So I think if we can let people know that we care about what's happening to you, we may not be able to fix it. We may not
Right.
be able to do anything, but you have a safe space so you can share that with someone who actually cares about what's happening with you. And if there's nothing tangibly I can do, you know that I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all people need is that space to just know that
And you
they're
don't you,
cared
you
for.
don't have to understand somebody
That's exactly
in
right.
order to show up for people like that, to have
Yeah,
compassion. You don't need to be like, oh, I know where you're crying, or if you weren't crying, if you wouldn't have done this, you wouldn't be going through that, or if you weren't this, you
exactly.
wouldn't do that. Instead of just being like, oh my gosh, this person is suffering,
Yeah. And,
and I
we
see
have to
that.
fight that urge. I'm glad you said that to try and fix things
Mhm.
because we can't fix things all the time.
No.
And we should only do the things that we know that we can do in confidence for that person, but don't try to fix them and tell them, well, you shouldn't have done this, or you should
Mhm.
try and do this.
Yeah.
I try never to give counsel. If someone asks me something specific, I will answer to the best of my ability with that disclaimer.
Mhm.
That this is the best of my ability. You can choose to use it. You can choose to not use it, but I'm only sharing this because you ask.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love to have the opportunity to help people work through some of these challenges. And if that's part of us moving forward or expanding what we're doing online, if someone thinks that there's anything of value that I could share about the relationship that you and I have built, then I would be happy to share it in whatever platform
Yeah.
um,
I
that
could see a
is available.
workshop happening whether we're together or separate, where it's like, you're with family members, maybe other conservative Christians who have trans, family members that they're in relationship with and they're struggling or don't know how, or, like, how do I do this with my faith? How can I say that I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative Christian, and show up for these people that I love and I care about? And I could still, hopefully help people who are trans or whatever, be in relationship with, with conservative Christians that are in their lives in a way that feels hopefully good and hopefully life like giving, like, and
Yeah,
helpful, because we're not just like in some obligatory relationship where we're like, oh well, we're family, so we're just in relationship because we're in relationship. I think there is some like obligation that you have to family, but
yeah,
that's not what is um, getting us up like is not pulling us to be in relationship with one another.
yeah.
It's I
That's
have a
not driving
desire,
our relationship. We
exactly. I have a desire to be in relationship with you.
Yeah, yeah. I
Love you.
genuinely enjoy
Love
our time
you.
together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's first, not the obligation. And I had that reminds me a little bit. I was talking with, I think, my roommate or somebody about this, is like, oh, um, yeah, I won't go there. But it just came up in the sense of like me showing up for people in my life that they don't like, they're like, why are you showing up for them when they don't do this or when they did that, or whatever, and it's like, well, like, and I'm just like, well, I don't feel obligated to them. Like, there was a time in my life where I felt obligated in my relationships. I felt like I had to show up so often, or I had to call so often, or I had to
Mm,
all these sorts of
yeah,
things in order to be like a good family member or a good friend or like whatever. And that wore me out, and that became the energy and the drive and the ambition that pulled me in that relationship, and I grew to resent it. And I started to believe that maybe I didn't even like those people, or maybe I didn't even want to be in that relationship, and I was just doing it because I had to. And it's like I had to like really kind of think about it and be like, no, actually, you want to be in that relationship. Like, you want to show up for those people. You want to be around them. You want to spend time with them. And you might not be able to do it as much as you like. And it
yeah,
might not look like all these other sorts of things. So you need to let that go and
yeah,
just make space and make time in the ways that you can, and just show up being excited and happy to be there.
yeah,
And so that changed a lot. And so there's still maybe the obligation aspect too, but that's like so far behind
yeah.
in what's pushing me and propelling me to be in that relationship or to show up for people. Um,
I
even
think
when we,
that oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were finished.
I was. Go ahead.
Okay. I think sometimes if we can even start because we feel obligated
Hmm.
and just be open to have that heart change. Because I know in the past I've done things just because I know that I should. And at the end of the day, I've left with change, genuine desire, genuine love, wanting to be connected. But I've had a few relationships in my life that started out that I was very resistant to, that I was
Hmm.
only doing it because I felt I had to. But looking back, I'm so grateful that I did that because I
Hmm.
would have missed out on this beautiful friendship or this beautiful relationship that I didn't have privy to for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Hmm. Well, and it kind of reminds me a little bit. I think oftentimes my relationship with God, um, the better I get with my relationship with God, it often is reflected in the relationships that I have with people.
Mm,
And the way
absolutely.
that this kind of comes up for me is God came back into my life. I came back into God. Like, I don't know, like I started having a relationship with God again
Mhm.
in the beginning because I had to. I was desperate. Like I freaking needed God, like
Yeah.
I needed God. And now I'm at a point in my life where I don't need God, but I need God. But the thing that is bigger is that I have a desire for God. I want to have a relationship with God. I want to have God in my life. I want to come to better understand God and everything, Like and that's what drives me.
Yeah.
It's not the desperation, it's not the need. It's actually the desire and the
Desire. Yeah.
curiosity and the like awe of what can become in being in relationship with with
Yeah.
God or
Yeah.
with you or with all these sorts of things. And I think for me that is a hope for my future and maybe our future. Is I really hope that our relationship, or I hope that me being in relationship with you helps me be able to be in better relationship with the rest of our family,
Mm.
but also just other people in general, um,
Yeah.
because that's a desire of my heart.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Praise God. So I believe my desire for God makes me a better human being also.
Mm,
I wanna allow him. I believe that he has a spirit that lives in me, and I want that spirit to flow through me, and because I know that spirit is love, then that
mhm,
mean that love needs to be flowing through me to the people that I run into every single day. And so I desire to do that every day. And that's why I'm so adamant about being in the scriptures. For me, that's where I find my wisdom. That's where I find my hope. That's where I find my joy and my comfort and my peace. And that's what gives me the ability, I think, to show up for people, no matter who they are, what they're going through, or my ability to say, I care about what's happening to you.
mhm,
Because I wasn't always like that. Even when I was just going to church to be going to church, I was saying all the right words and showing up every week and hanging around the right people and doing all that stuff, but it was different. And
mhm,
now I don't want to say obligation because I've never really felt obligated to serve the Lord, but now that has shifted completely over to a desire or a passion to pursue. I can't wait to get up in the morning and have my time with the Lord. I can't wait to listen to the next teaching. I have a few people that I enjoy listening to that challenge my thought process about who God is, and I love that. And as I embrace those things or as I learn some things, it's like, wow, I feel like it really expands my ability to sit next to you
mhm.
and be lovely to not just you, but to anybody that
Anyone.
God puts in my path. And it's amazing how many times now I've been able to embrace those opportunities of those people that I'm like, oh, do I really have to go over there? And
Mm,
really be blessed by it.
yeah. And that Roxanne says that's why a relationship is so important with God.
Yeah. For me, yeah, I agree with her.
Yep. I agree too. And I think there's so many, sometimes I always get a little like, because I'm a God person, I'm a spiritual person, and this is a spiritual thing. But sometimes I feel like people might come across this and it's like, whatever you're for me. And I know you have a very, like, for me, I think don't let the word God, don't let the Christianese or whatever your past experiences with things like keep you from being open to what goodness can come into your life, and what blessings can come from being in relationship with, whether you call it God, whether you call it universe, whether you call it Buddha, or you call it like, I don't know, your inner child work, or like whatever. I mean, I think the ultimate goal is that we're working to try to be better with ourselves and be better with the world and with like our purpose and understanding that. And I think we all come to it in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. And the words that we use and the settings that we're in when we can connect, it may be different. It probably is different from person to person. And don't let the inability to define it or it not fit into what you once saw things to be, to recognize that it's already true. Like God is already with you, or whatever that thing is already with you, you know? And so just be open to it. I don't know. I guess I just kind of feel that way sometimes, because I know I've been that person that was so resistant to even just some of the words that don't work for me anymore. Just hearing them made it really difficult for me. And I'm just saying, like, don't let that get in the way of your ability. Don't let that rob you of your relationship. You know what I mean?
I do, and this is one of the areas that you and I disagree on.
I know we
And
do.
yeah, and that's the see. Here's the beauty of it. We know we disagree. We can still have this conversation because I believe there's only one way. There's one way through Jesus, and so when you talk to me or when I share with you, that's the perspective that I'm going to give to you. That it's one way through Jesus, and the love that I have for the people around me flows through me through the love of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that doesn't discourage you to be in relationship with us or to be in relationship with the people in your life that may be like either one of us
Yeah.
or not like any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because, connection, I think is important. We're people that desire and need one another. Even in the pages of scripture that said man shouldn't be alone. God created woman so man wouldn't be alone. We are relational people and we need to be in relationship with other people.
Yeah. Your sister's all, Jesus does have a lot of names. LOL.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Thanks, sis.
That's what family is for, right?
That's exactly what family is for. And she's right. He recognizes himself in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, so does this mean that we have to decide what we want to be when we grow up?
No. I don't want to have to decide what I want to be when I grow up, because I might sell myself short. And I think you're froze on your end, but you'll come on in a second. Hopefully. Roxanne says, anytime. This is those times when I just keep talking because I don't know if you're froze or I'm froze. And we don't want people to have dead air. Right? Last time this happened, she completely disappeared. But how are you doing, Roxanne? Glad that you could join us today and chime in. I think it is on her end, though. Sure. So I'm assuming you can hear me, Roxanne, and not Tina. Oh, there she went. I'm amazing. How are you? I'm pretty good, Life is full. Life is full. And yeah, and there's just so much that I don't know what's going to happen, and that's kind of exciting. Yay, she's back.
Was that me that just dropped off?
It was you.
So weird
Yep.
because you froze on my end and then it just went to buffering, buffering, buffering. I'm like, oh no. Sorry about that, everybody.
That's all good.
I'm sure you were able to engage everybody and keep them entertained.
Yeah, we kept talking, and I talked with your sister a little bit.
Uh-oh, what did she say about me?
Oh, it was all good. We didn't talk about you. Not everything's about you.
Oh, hey, just saying.
Well, I guess we did kind of talk a little bit about you. We were talking about the fact that you were
Well, I'm going to go back and read all the comments.
That you were gone. That was what we were talking
Oh, okay.
that you had left. Yes, you are my aunt. Yes, you are my aunt. I said that.
That's funny.
I'm just like, I'm speaking to Tina, so I'm like, your sister, my aunt. But yes,
I love that we can have a family reunion here and share that with everybody.
yes, it's been good to have Roxanne join us pretty regularly
Yeah,
this
we
season
are blessed.
for sure. I can't wait till we're in the same room again. I'm thinking, aren't we planning on doing like dinner maybe or something when you visit?
Yeah, Roxanne and I haven't had a conversation yet, but yeah, that's the
Mm,
plan. That was my
funny,
tentative plan.
none of my nieces or nephews call me an aunt. Oh, hit a button. Do they just call you Rocky? I call you Aunt Rocky or Aunt Roxanne. So yeah, I'm picking her up, and I thought we should at least do lunch. Yeah, I think that would be great. I might actually ride down with you guys to Wendell. I don't know if that's an option. I think I will want to do that.
All right, well, we'll figure all that out. Anyway, our travel plans we can do offline.
Right, for sure, for sure. Well, what did you, you were starting to say something, weren't you, when you like went off?
Yeah, I don't remember. Once the buffering started, I lost
You're like,
my
and it
train of
started
thought.
buffering up here,
Yeah,
and you lost it, huh?
it just was infectious. But we were talking about, how are we, what would we like to do moving forward? I don't know
Mm,
if we want to share some of the personal goals that we have, if we want to share some of the goals we have for Splinter Grace, if we want to open that up for people to, um, I don't know, speak into us just a little bit to
mhm.
see how we can be of better use of our time to be beneficial to all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think all of that is good.
Okay.
What is coming to mind for you?
Well, like I said before, since I've had such a change in my life, but learning how to um, not, I mean, this is going to sound maybe counterintuitive, but I've always been a go getter. Set a goal, go get it. Set a goal, go get it. But understanding that sometimes my goals aren't the same as the goals that God has for me, I've been a little more hesitant to set a goal and go get it. I think there's still some productivity, and we were talking about that before also, that needs to happen in our lives. But for me, in this season of my life, like I said before, I enjoy so much the Word of God. And I know that I am a good teacher. So I would like to have more opportunities to share the teachings of Jesus Christ to
Mhm,
people if the opportunity presents itself. So my action for that is to not go out and try to put dates on the calendar, but to be ready so that when those dates come up, that I can go out and I can share in a loving way the Word of God.
mhm. So I hear a goal there. I see you have a
What
goal set, and you're
what is
praying
that?
for it. No, your goal is to teach, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
so
my
like,
goal, to
so
teach.
now you're studying and you're doing, you know what I mean, and you're trusting that it's going to happen. So I just think I relate to that so much because I feel like I have a similar relationship with life and with God and with myself, that like there's this like I used to be the same way of like, I got to do this, like this is the thing I'm doing, and so then I do everything to make that happen, and then this, that, or the other. um and now I still have a desire, like I still have the desire of like, and my desire has always been, and I think yours has too, has always been to do what God would have me do, to live into my purpose, all those sorts of things.
Hmm.
I think I've just had a different understanding of what that looked like and what that was at different
Hmm.
points of my life. um and now I think like you, I just have like an openness of like, I don't exactly know how that's going to play out, but I'm open to it. And the reason why I don't know is because I feel like I might, in that rigidity, I might miss out on something, or I might
Yeah,
not be able to show up for something that would really be like the the bee's knees, like be the
yeah,
thing that
I get it.
that will take me to that next place, and that much closer to really living into my purpose, if you will, or my calling.
Yeah, I agree because I think sometimes we can have such a limited understanding that we aren't open to everything that God has for us. And
Mhm.
so it's like, okay, I'm going to be ready because this is the desire of my heart. I believe that it lines up with God's desire for my heart because the ability to teach has comes easy for me,
Hmm.
and I enjoy it. It's like when I'm doing that, it's like my first love. My
Right.
husband already knows that, just so you know.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just can't imagine that there wouldn't be something that God can use in that. And so I'm just being, but I don't, like you said, I don't want to be rigid and start just putting dates on a calendar and trying to make something happen. So that
Yeah.
part of my life, I feel like I've grown out of. Thank you, Jesus. And so now I'm just waiting on Him. And I find in this pages of scripture that all that correlates with some of the testimonies of people I read in there. So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I feel like I'm similar. I have like a lot of hopes for my future moving to Idaho. I'm really hoping to get re-engaged into life here and family and friends and just like being able to stay a little bit more grounded, I guess, and
Yeah.
have a home. Um, but also through that still, like I'm still like I don't know. I feel like there's some energy that I need to do to try to put myself out in the world. Because I feel like I have been living online and living very digitally and kind of been really inward. Um,
Hmm.
and so I really am excited to be able to kind of get out into, I guess, just get out into the world a little bit more,
Yeah.
which might feel weird, being I've been traveling all over for 20 months, that I just want to get out in the world a little bit more. But even in that experience, there was still a lot of like alone time and
Yeah.
kind of being in my own little, like in myself, um, which can happen regardless of where you're at. And so for me, I'm just wanting to kind of like open up a little bit more so that I can, again, just let more in and be in more relationship. And, I'm excited about like, I'm producing like like shows in like San Francisco, and I don't know, like I'm really interested in still doing some of the national and maybe international work, um, but I don't know, like I'm really just kind of open to where and what might come into my life. And I think Roxanne says about volunteering at like a women's shelter. What was that?
Yeah. That's a great thing.
Yes.
That's a great thing. I've been doing a lot of things here with just different people in my community to just be out and about and just to love on people. That's,
Hmm.
that's what I like to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's amazing to not know what God has for you and to be at peace about it. And that's kind of what I feel like I am. I'm blessed. I do teach a couple Bible studies online and in person, and I love that. And those platforms are growing. But yeah, it's just amazing to be at peace about. I used to always be so anxious about accomplishing, things
Mhm.
and moving in a direction. So I'm just praying. This podcast actually is the fruit of me walking through doors that God opened for me,
Mhm.
things that I wasn't pursuing, things I wasn't. So I got to believe that after how many seasons are we in now? Season six,
Yeah,
five,
this is the end of 5.
the
Yep.
five. After 5 seasons, I can't believe that this has been for naught. And so I pray every day that the Holy Spirit has used the conversations that you and I have had to help encourage and empower and edify people out there from wherever they're at. And
Mhm.
I hope, if not, that they would reach out to us and give us an opportunity to speak life into them.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just one relationship, and this is our relationship. But I do think that there might be, you know, there might be something in it
Yeah.
for others to. I know that like mentorship, has been a big thing in my life, and seeing how other people are living their life, or seeing how things are impacting them in ways that I want to experience, has been really helpful to me. So I think in
Mm.
some ways this is our way of mentoring, or and I also have this belief, like, but mentoring in a relational way, so that people can see maybe what a relationship could be, and how they could maybe go by it. But also for me, that's a big part of my spirituality too, is that like a big part of, I need to be able to give away what I have, and my relationship with you is a blessing, and to be able to, to pass that on or share that with somebody else is just a way of kind of like passing it on, so to speak.
Yeah.
which is a really big thing in recovery. You gotta give it away to keep it sort of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it helps. I know for me too, it helps me see what really is going on in our relationship. When
Yeah.
I'm able to actually reflect on it and talk about it in a way with other people, it helps me put words to what is happening. And it reminds me of what we've gone through to be in the relationship that we are today. Because it's easy to forget about that because, we're past a lot of that.
You're right. You're right. And it sometimes it's challenging even to be reminded. I think it's like, oh, that was so hard. And
But
go
But I
ahead.
think it also creates purpose in that struggle, if you will, or in that challenge. It creates, I mean, the fact that we got through it is one, but I think the fact that challenge or that difficulty, somebody else knowing that was our experience can help them through theirs.
Yeah.
So it kind of turns it into an asset instead of like a deficit.
I agree. So praise God for it. I'm
Yes. Well, we are about a minute over, so
okay.
we do need to say goodbye. So I'm excited I'll just say, I'm excited for our next season. We haven't quite decided when that'll be, but keep an eye out on socials or subscribe to our YouTube or our podcast. And as soon as stuff happens, you will know. We'd love to hear from you in the interim. Keep us in your prayers and thoughts and whatever you do to commune with God, and keep us in your mind, and we'll do the same with you all.
Yeah.
And then do you want to take us out, Tina?
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Here we are ending up season 5. Just like Bonnie said, keep us in your prayers and, give us some insight. If this is something that you guys enjoy, let us know. If not, I guess we may or may not continue.
We won't listen to them if they tell us.
Oh, okay. So we've decided we're not going to listen, so never mind. But look out for us in some of our other venues. Bonnie has a whole list of venues and podcasts and things that she's doing. I have some Facebook groups and some Bible study groups that we're working on that keep us busy and keep us grounded and moving in the right direction. So know that we love all of you. We appreciate you, even those of you who choose not to be nice. We still love you and care about what's happening to you. So keep us posted, and see you next season.
All right. Love you all. Bye-bye. Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.